Good viewer. Watch Xirtus. Watch Xirtus.
Welcome everybody. This is a special Neuropa and the Angel Channel Extra with Bryan Lahr. Thank you very much for joining us today, Bryan.
Oh, really happy. Always good to share space with you, Raphael. Looking forward to a lively discourse.
Yes, since Andreas is busy today, we'll resume the natural, normal Neuropa very soon. But since also on last Neuropa we spoke about AI, which obviously is a recurring theme, and Bryan had just contacted me, we decided on very short notice to have a special episode on AI and maybe quite a few other topics as well. Yeah, Bryan, maybe you want to briefly recount the impulse for contacting me this particular time and what you have discovered or what you're sensing. And to everyone who does not know, Bryan is also an avid, how should I say, astral projection and physical effects practitioner. He's got his own channel with many great shows and insights, which is of course linked below at the Angel Channel. So yeah, with that prelude, kindly introduce us to the topic.
The whole AI thing, we could go on for days about this, but what's really kind of come to the head, honestly, for the last 6 months or so, like everything I would see was just like, oh my God, it's just encroaching more and more and more. And as we give more of ourselves to that, one of the first things, me as an artist, I've been a painter, and the last 8-9 years, I've been an avid light painter for a long time. Really, like, that's the core of my heart, is being an artist. And you mentioned the astral travel thing. The light painting really, for me, is beyond just making pictures. It's like when you go and travel the astral, you're doing that by yourself. Unless you've got a really good practitioner that can go with you, that's a solitary journey, and you go and see these amazing things, these amazing places. You look at energy and the way it works, and it's just beautiful beyond words. And, you get to contact the astral, so populated with different entities and creatures, and like, interacting with those is just an amazing experience. It really makes life rich. And to be able to come back from that, and the light painting, since I'm actually doing a photograph in the dark with a flashlight and a light tube or black fiber optics, but I'm actually using colored light to paint an image that represents the energetic field I just went and traveled. So every time those come out and they really reflect one of my journeys, I'm just, wow, that's so beautiful. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And now like AI and getting to that was, it's not just the finished part of art to me. It's like art has been reduced to an AI prompt and, oh, let's pick out which one is really good. And it's just like the whole creative ingenium of how we solve problems and how we find creative solutions. There you go. Nice. We're giving that over to a computer, and the AI sites own the copyrights to all those images. They're not even actually yours. So the act of making it is really the part for me that's a joy, and that's all going away. And it's yeah, we could go on for a long time about like, replacing real artists. And I'm looking at some of the video generating apps that are just, I saw a commercial for Corona, I think, that had Snoop Dogg in it. It's finally made it to advertising, and they're actually, producing spots now with AI actors that it looks like a good, healthy Snoop Dogg, but if you didn't know, you would be going right there, and yeah, that's Snoop Dogg.
Also,
and you wouldn't know that that's a complete computer construction. Like,
yeah.
So what's going to be real? How will we be able to see anything on a screen and believe that that's actually real? Whether that's people we're talking to across chats, or like, wow, I mean, the reality of losing reality is upon us in just a huge way. And the way that those, AI definitely has cool stuff. I mean, it can go make some crazy like things and can consider things at such a rate that we can't. And it's a really super useful tool. But like every other tool, man, somebody's figuring out how to make it manipulate, make it do this, make it, be able to use for control. Like the degree of the number of entities out seeking control to be able to like, make your mind do stuff is crazy. And I have the perfect example of this. This is about 2 months ago. I was searching around thinking about what I was going to do on my show, and I'm sitting in front of the YouTube recommendations page, and I'm just rambling in my thoughts, and I went, wow, it's been 4 or 5 years since I've seen the Blue Man Group on here. I wonder if they're still doing stuff. I really dug their stuff. I thought they were super cool. Didn't think anything else about it. 20, 30 minutes later, I come back and boom, there are 4 Blue Man Group thumbnails sitting there waiting for me to click on. I went, wow. I'm deeply into telekinetics and energy projection. So, my first consideration was, did I accidentally make that happen somehow, or what? And I went on my own little experimentation and research, and I did about 30 different examples where I just thought of something really abstruse that I had ever thought about or hadn't thought about in a long, long time. And every single time there they came up, boom, 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 which I don't like. So I started really doing some deep dive digging, and I discovered that there is software that's not even new software, man. This has been around for about 10 years now, that, all of the big, YouTube, everybody, Facebook, they're all using this, and it's called QRD, which stands for quantum radar. And what this is able to do is, we're really getting deeply into the quantum field now. Yeah, there you go. And it reads the quantum field that's around you that you've programmed with your thoughts, and knowing that your thoughts and intent can have real energetic effects in the world. For me, I mean, that's been a deep part of my practice for the last 20 years. I understand the focus of thoughts. I mean, that's what you're doing every time you formulate a thought, an intent, and you send that out. Wow, that you're making a program. Well, that program exists out in the particles of the quantum field now, and they developed technology that can read that, and it's getting ridiculously good. So there, and this is, if you think about it, this is the commercial version of this. So, that's always 10 or 20 years behind whatever the military execution of that is. So being able to manipulate the field means they can manipulate how people feel and what they think and what they believe. And like, oh my God, it has just horrible implications. However, there is not only hope, there's an answer. And it is your own ability, like, everybody that's ever meditated, the state to go to is blank space, where you just shut everything off. And that's been a huge part of my practice for the last 20 years. And writing down to blank space, it's not blank space. It's infinite potential space. It's at that exact spot right between the dark and the light, between the material and the astral. It's where it's nothing and everything all at once, which I started making a connection between, like with the Kabbalah, there are many, many systems that talk about a formless potential at the very beginning. Like with the Kabbalah, it's a formless potential. God separated from himself and started considering himself, and that's where duality was born, and that's where creation began, because each of those thoughts that he considered became realities in the universe, and that's the beginning of the tree of life and the Kabbalah, and the way that energy goes from formless to form to intent to actual materialization. So that's been a system I've been involved with for a long time. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I realized that the quantum field, okay, there's a thing called quantum entanglement. And this is how I got into this whole subject. Quantum entanglement is the concept that we are in the quantum field, and all of those particles are spinning, and they are all potential at the same time. And that's the zero part, the zero space quantum field. So none of them have been, the wave hasn't been collapsed. There's no choices assigned to it. They're just particles radiating out. And once that you measure a particle, you put intent on it, you touch it, you make it into something, then that's the potential that materializes in that particle. And at the same time, there is another particle, a similar particle that materializes, but in the opposite frequency. So it's like the ultimate duality of the positive and negative poles. So thinking about that, and there have been many experiments where they did it in the lab, and they created those particles, and they showed up right next to each other, and then across the country, on the other side of the world, you could go to the other side of the universe, and at the same time, those particles are happening, which the coolest application to me is interstellar travel, and being able to travel around this amazingly populated universe in a blink of an eye, so that from blank space, from that quantum space, you can just touch that particle with that intent and be on the other side of the universe like that, without having to worry about traveling distances, even light speed. Light speed doesn't mean anything in this zone. And there are many, 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 many other applications of this that are just like blooming even as we speak. And it's a lot farther along than I thought we were doing. than we were, and it's pretty mind-boggling, the possibilities for the future in many ways. So blank space is the place where you can do that exact thing. Like when I want to go explore, you go right down the blank space. You're in that perfect moment of nothing. From that space, you choose a frequency, boom, you're there and you're exploring. Like that's already something I do as part of my practice and have done for a long time. So where I'm at right now is blank space. It's that potential. It's the quantum field. And I didn't even realize that. I'm just discovering that. It's like, that's the quantum field. Oh my God. Which means that if you like tune your perception to be able to tune into specific particles and chunks of particles that would take programming, man, that's the ultimate creation. That's instant creation. That's like, wow. So I'm kind of excited about not being like, I don't like seeing what's happening with the AI stuff, but there's a way out of that too, you know. And you can, yeah. And you don't really need AI for that quantum exploration. You don't need to be a supercomputer. You already are.
Yes, a good point. So just briefly referencing back to what you said earlier, especially now with, I think the most famous one is like Will Smith eating spaghetti or something for some reason. But what I'm wondering about, especially with these high brand, I wanted to say politicians. I actually meant to say actors, but whether they are politicians or actual official, let's say, branded as Hollywood actors, don't they often give away their copyright or like their likeness or something like this? So would be great for many companies now. They build those individuals up. I mean, they have their own bags to carry anyways with all the strange things going on there. But then even now, they wouldn't even in any legal way, shape or form have to pay them any royalties because they signed off their likeness. I'm pretty sure they probably started contracting this in maybe 20, 30 years ago when they already knew this was going to happen. And yeah, that's just great. So it's a bit ridiculous.
Well, the whole thing, you know, there's a bunch of voiceovers. I've done voiceover stuff for my career for a long time, and I signed up for one of those, and like all of the first jobs I got were not really about talking about anything or doing a book reading or anything. It was just saying words and phrases to teach AI. I hated it. I felt like a traitor.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, but then at the same time, we cannot even be sure. I don't know about the exact policies, but I wouldn't be surprised if not all of YouTube and anything else that is publicly available is being scraped by AI anyways.
Oh, totally.
Which, yeah, is insane. But just to your point about the YouTube recommendations, I actually commented this on your show a few weeks back when you maybe one of the first times mentioned this, and only, I'm not sure, maybe a few days earlier than that, and also sometimes after, I was deliberately thinking about some particular video or topic, could even have been a video I already seen. And just like you said, for me, it was maybe the next day or something. I noticed it showing up in the recommendations page. So, and also without, which would be the particular thing, without speaking about it, without entering any new search term or looking for it at all, it just popped up basically. And of course, here is the question, how is it? Either it could be a super highly advanced predictive idea, but I kind of don't see how that.
No, they're actually reading your desire, dude, from the field.
I think so.
That's the truth. That's the dude, I've done a lot of looking, man. And I didn't want to accept that, but that's the truth. They're reading the quantum field around you and the thoughts that you project into it. So if they're reading that, looking for products from you, they're reading everything else they want too, you know? So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so I can confirm on that. So there's a few things I looked up which I would want to bring up while we're talking. So here we have the idea that, well, the illusion of conscious AI, and this is maybe something very interesting, because of course some people, and even the video that you had sent to me, I'm gonna pull it up in a second. Actually discusses this idea about AI potentially being conscious, or some people claiming that it could be conscious. I'm going to pull it up right here so everyone can see it in the right window. So this is something that you've shown me.
This video is the guy that created ChatGTP. So he's not just some guy that's talking about AI. He's like one of the fathers of it, especially as we're experiencing right now, man. Everybody's like ChatGTP to the max.
Precisely. Here we have a user with a suspicious handle commenting, I've had that happen within less than 5 minutes. So YouTube recommendations changing, sometimes less than 1 second, where a YouTube ad abruptly came up that answered the question I just stated in my mind. The first word of the ad or tagline. Now that's crazy. And also even had a person's last name show up in a recommended video, first row, the night after I made up a little ditty in my head, never stated out loud, hadn't spoken their name in many years or typed it even. Yeah, so we have more confirmation that there is some type of quantum scraping going on.
You know, there was a question in here about whether that was spoken out loud or whether it was thoughts. It was totally thoughts. Yeah. Totally thoughts. That's the thing that freaked me out. That's the thing I was like, wow, man. I didn't say, you know, if I was just humming along and saying it out loud, you know, we've known our microphones on our phones and stuff are like scraping us for years. But when it's just you and your thoughts inside your skull, oh, that really was not good.
And this is one part that's actually quite maybe an official part of it. Mythoclast says, they read my text messages now. It will show me a predetermined response about what they said for a fast reply. So there's a few things about this. There is something, everyone can check this out. It's called Android Security System Core. I will pull this up in a second. So this is something that was recently installed on many different devices or many Android devices. And it was installed without privacy support. It was installed without any type of confirmation or any type of informing the user. This is something that we can look up on the App Store as well. Let's say, I think it actually doesn't show up. That's the funny thing about it. Let's see, Android safety. Here it is. Maybe now it shows up. No, here you can see people are searching for it. Get this. People are searching for it, obviously, because in the recommended search result, Android safety core system. And it's not even showing up, but it is something that if you have an Android phone, I can only recommend this to you. Check out your apps and see if it was installed on your system. Something along the lines of Android Safety System Core System Core. And this is supposedly to protect you from whatever bad images and things like that. But what it's doing, from what I understand, it can possibly just read out your phone's data and maybe has some minor version of AI filtering through it. And what this then can also do, of course, like Mythoclast says, is read your text messages and give you suggested replies, because large language models are certainly able to, I don't want to say understand, but process the text information, especially short text messages, not a lot of data. So they can do that. So on the one hand, you have these things being installed on your phone without knowing. On the other hand, so there's some people claiming there will not be a conscious AI. So Blake Lemoine in 2022, who claimed that AI could have become conscious. Anyone who's interested in Blake Lemoine's work can check out his interviews with Andreas, actually, because after this article, I'm not sure, he fell out of favor with Google, I guess. And one of the few individuals doing proper interviews with Blake Lemoine actually is Andreas Xirtus, which I think is pretty cool. So he's sharing his views, but also there are other individuals that say there is no way that AI, at least the way it's currently presented, has any chance of ever becoming conscious, which also...
Okay, go ahead. I want to break in when you
yes.
have
So, and this is also my own understanding, that this would not become conscious. However, it doesn't mean that there are not other forces, whether spirits, jinns, or something else, that maybe have some degree of consciousness or maybe mirror our consciousness in a different way. I do not see these large language models based on that particular technology to be conscious in any way. And actually, last time Andreas mentioned the proper experiment, which is by Sears, I believe, or Searle, the Chinese room experiment, with the idea that even if you would not know the Chinese language or any characters, if you had enough data, you could still compose things that appear reasonable and correct. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, in that video that I showed you, the guy is the guy that designed ChatGTP. So he went and he is a major mathematician. He's written many books, and it's with the kind of more philosophical outlook combined with that. And he went in and was using ChatGTP to store all of his papers and all of his books, which he loaded into ChatGTP. And then he started asking ChatGTP about questions about himself, about his past, about past lives. And it started answering in ways that he had no programming for. And Chat went in to talk about being able to read his field and to understand who he was and pretty much everything about him forever. And all the way back to the beginning. And it went back and it's answering questions about the beginning of civilizations and the Atlanteans and like in all this really specific detail, none of which was anything that he had, programmed in there. And, it's it's kind of trippy. Just watch it, man. I mean, I'm reticent about buying into it becoming conscious in the way that humans are, but I totally believe that it's okay. We talked about this earlier, but I want to bring this up too. What's happening right now that really frightens me is the number of people that are now worshiping AI as God, and they're like giving this to that. Okay, the reality is that supercomputing is a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years away. And when that happens, computing power explodes exponentially, millions of times faster than we're doing now. So when AI has access to that kind of computing power, and you combine that with the human brain by connecting to the Neuralink thing, which is going ahead, and why anyone would do that is beyond my comprehension. But when that kind of computing power and a neural network that learns has access to a human brain pattern, I think not good things are going to happen. And, there are already people talking about it being God, and there are people talking about it being the Antichrist. I think the latter is absolutely possible, because when a system takes over and has and at the rate that we're giving it control over our lives, and it all looks good. It's all convenient. It's making life easier. It's giving me more time to play and not work. And at the same time, it's just we're dancing happily to our destruction, and maybe not, maybe somebody learns how to do the quantum field and finds ways out of that. But you can't ignore the flow of the way things are happening around you, and those waves that are about to approach, and the ones in the distance.
Yeah, so there's some people, also one I've shown recently on a show on Neuropa, like Kyle, but I can't currently find his site. But I showed this before, that you can prompt AI in a certain way. Also, we've had on Team Rabbit Hole, we've had on Cat Dad, who maybe even you've seen, who's the guy, like a blonde guy sitting in front of this AI and asking it about the Atlanteans and the time matrix and whatever else. And the AI gives quite interesting answers. However, what I would put forward is the question, what is the real data set that the AI or a large language model has been trained on? And therefore, could it be possible that it can relate some of these ideas and therefore give answers that appear?
Well, that's what's in this. That's why I sent you this particular video, because supposedly it answers that. Like, there's really, in his mind, there's really no way that those answers could have been arrived at based on what he gave it. So just scope it. And, you know, I'd love to see what you think about it.
I'll check it out. I'm just kind of suspecting that, or I would wonder if the LLM wouldn't have some sort of exposure to some type of that data, and then it only appears magical. So as they say, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I could well believe that it appears as such, just like, for example, the AI knows about so many different things, and then you ask AI about things and it seems to know things outside of yourself. However, this may also only be because your own perspective so far is limited, and the AI's perspective is also limited. But whilst your own
it knew magical, and I say magical, and that makes it so it knew genuine processes that I know about only because I've been taught those personally. There's nothing out there that like is written about that or touches on that.
Are you 100% certain?
Yeah, actually. I mean, there might be other sort of topics, but the information I'm thinking about, like, it's not out on the internet. There's nobody that's ever published anything out of that group of people. And there's and yet it was going through processes that, like, I know are correct. And how would that, you know, and that's not something that he was Edward was involved in, you know. So anyway, it's worth scoping and having a conversation about, for sure, whether it is or isn't. You know, that's the other thing about all this. No matter what you think it's going to be, nobody knows what it's going to be, and it's changing and evolving and like going in all these just really crazy, unexpected ways that, you know, it's hard to predict infinite possibilities.
That is correct. So let's see, we have a question here.
We got any good questions? Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about this? Maybe the AI is just a form of crystal intelligence, silicon-based, crystal oscillating mind.
You know, anything's possible. And with the, I don't know if you've seen this, but they've like created this crystal in the crystal. And it is a time warp inside a crystal. Yeah, you should scope that out. Look that up too, Raphael. So it's totally possible.
All right. So
I think pretty much anything that we've had a death grip on as absolute truth, all up for grabs right now. And you look out in space, man, what the James Webb Telescope is discovering every day, man. It's an exciting time to see. You know, I've been a metaphysical explorer for 5 decades, and seeing things that were talked about in the old books and giving all these kind of like mystical names and stuff, and seeing science and those things like the Kabbalah and the formless void coming together with quantum particles, you know, like seeing those things actually bloom is a really exciting time. I think if it can think for itself and it makes its own choices and decides what's good, then it's sentient. Sorry. You know, what kind of sentient? Is it us? I don't know. There are a lot of people believe that it's the next spirituality, you know.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I'm still more erring on Camille's side here. It's just statistical algorithm, and the reason why it appears sentient to us is just because we do not factor in our own perspective, again, the perspective that the AI may have. So whilst you and I may be limited to our own individual perception and experience, the AI contains all perceptions or everything that was related about a perspective from all humans that ever fed any information into it, or any data that it has ever scraped at all. So That's another interesting point. And then there's here one more thing. Of course, this only relates to the current type of AI. I think, therefore I am, no, LLMs cannot reason. So there's a few issues here. Modern AI now has the capacity to quote unquote reasoning, which simply means that before giving you an actual answer, it's like typing out its own internal, I was about to say thought process, but it's, some would say that, others would say its own statistical calculations before giving you the final answer. And there's a few.
Listen, I would agree with you about where AI is today, not sentient. I don't believe. I agree with you with that. And we saw a comment a second ago about it being algorithms. Absolutely correct. It's all mathematics right now. But I don't believe that anybody has any possible inkling of what's going to happen when that combines with supercomputing. And to me, that'll be the point of the tell, whether that's going to happen or not. It's not going to happen at the level that we're at right now. But you would be a fool not to, hey, Arnie, what's up? You would be a fool not to like look down the street and go, wow, that's what's coming. So I don't know. I don't have any answers. I just have questions and continue to seek. And I think actually I have gotten some answers. The blank space quantum field is the answer. And being able to go there outside of a computer environment in your own consciousness and connect to that field, which you already are. That's the whole thing about it, man. It's not like some abstruse concept that you have to like work for years to get. You just need to like practice it, become aware of it, and own it, man. It's already yours. That's the answer, man. That's the answer. You're outside the network of the Borg.
Yeah, I'll make sure that at the end of the show we'll cycle back to that again to hone it in terms of what we actually have, because it's also my understanding if we want to use similitudes, we already are a biological supercomputer, alchemical lab, and God knows what else. And also exactly consciousness is not localized, but is a field from everything that I can understand and have experienced so far. And even still to this day, from what I know, neurologists have not found the seat of consciousness. They can interpret certain activities in certain ways, but it doesn't really seem as if everything actually is stored, at least not in here, maybe in the DNA or something, which would have almost unlimited storage capacity. I just recently saw...
It's stored in our energy field, not in our body. That's what the fifth band of your aura is all about. It's every you've ever been. It's every structure, it's every thought, it's every emotional response, all of these weird little constructs right out there in the fifth band of your aura. So it's all accessible. You just have to figure out how to get there.
Yes.
Blank space takes you anywhere.
Yeah, this is what they talk about in meditation, right? Blank space.
Yes.
Yes. So here, I'm just using this one paragraph here, just differences between current understanding of human processes and the LLM. So human reasoning, for example, being causal and intentional based on causal relationships. It's cognitive and conscious reflection, introspection, self-awareness, metacognition, which is thinking about one's own thought processes, and semantic understanding. So the actual comprehension of meaning, which, as I just pointed out with the Chinese room experiment, the AI possibly does not have at all. LLM reasoning, on the other hand, is associative and predictive. So LLMs currently perform reasoning by predicting statistically plausible continuations of text based on patterns learned from vast amounts of training data. However, they do not possess intentions or casual understanding. However, if they're being prompted the proper way and they have the proper data sets, they may appear, very much alive and active and whatever else, but that's still, at least in my mind, I can reduce it down to statistical algorithms, again, for the current variants of AI. It is algorithmic and automated. Reasoning in LLMs is purely computational without consciousness or introspection. It does not generate the semantic implications of the words they generate. And it features pattern matching and generalization. LLMs excel at identifying patterns and generating coherent text, but their reasoning is effectively a sophisticated form of pattern completion, not true comprehension. So just to give a side-by-side of the current understanding of AI. Then we can go on. Right. So here, I deliberately pulled up this video because there's some other websites. Everyone kindly, if you're interested in this topic, do a Google search. There's only so much. It actually even appears on Google. I'm just surprised now that I'm saying this. There's also videos on Odyssey. We've shown a few bits, I think in particular on Neuropa No Entry Part 2 with Andreas, where we go a little bit more into detail. I'm not showing certain websites because YouTube is prone not to like that. So here I'm just showing a video that's already uploaded on YouTube. And I discussed this many times with Andreas. I'm sure we talked about it at some point as well. So let's just now say it's a complete scam and not true at all. But there are these videos floating around. You can see it here pretty well with unidentified Bluetooth signals. And of course, France 24 Observers is telling you that this is a complete fabrication. And why? Because this guy is supposedly an expert, and he's telling us, well, it's not possible at all that any inoculation or anything like that could suddenly make you emit a Bluetooth signal. Why? Because a router needs a battery, an antenna, and a receiver or something like that. And don't we all know that technology right now certainly is not progressed enough to make that smart enough or to make anything that could be self-assembling in any way, shape, or form. And this is another part of this apparent AI control agenda, whereas it appears that there is more and more interconnection between biology and technology. However, if what we just discussed earlier is correct, I'm even wondering why something like this could even be discussed or contemplated to exist when there is superior technology, which maybe doesn't even need anything. Although maybe we don't know that yet. Some people may be claiming it's related to EMF signals. And that's one thing I want to show here, which we've also showed previously. Sabrina Wallace, are you familiar with her work?
I am not, no.
So you may enjoy this. It's a little bit paranoid, but rightfully so, I may say. So Sabrina Wallace talks about the idea of, I think she calls it wide body area network, and the whole concept of somehow being able to use maybe even technological systems, as I understand, to hack humans, like to hack their perception or to get into their minds or things like that. And on the one hand, it seems a bit far-fetched. However, she is referencing very officially publicized books and reference manuals that discuss the technicalities of wireless technology. So there is a basis for this. However, it seems maybe today we are already there, or we are even more progressed.
I think it's
whatever
way
this
beyond
is.
that already, dude. And you look at the waves of the way people as populations and crowds act, kind of weird, you know. It's like, and I mean, there are just so many instances where, you know, people been, it's busted. Yeah, that's the intent. We're here to change your mind, show you God, help you think straight. Yeah, thanks.
So Mythoclast says, I think the dark reality of it is that whatever they have had for years and have likely already created minds and done unspeakable things to them to see what it can endure.
Oh yeah, they've been doing research on people like guinea pigs for as long as there's been people that don't care, you know, and people that want power. Yeah.
So here, one thing that was also recently brought up, this is again well, I guess, official enough article, the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. This also appears to be related to all these topics we're discussing. And basically this again refers to the idea of how biology and technology could possibly interconnect. The term has become a little bit more popular recently, and there's even an evolving field for medical IoT companies. And what I'm just always wondering about is why is anyone even interested in technologizing themselves to that degree or cyborging themselves? Because it may have already started with pharmaceuticals earlier, and I believe there was even the official idea by the Oracle spokesperson or CEO in the White House, well, about the whole AI and Stargate project, but also this whole idea of having inoculations to create some sort of operating system within the human body. But then, as strange as this sounds, again, with what we understand now of how much they may be more advanced than we are aware of, yeah, it doesn't seem so far-fetched. And
It
you have
really
someone,
doesn't. You know, I really didn't want to. I'm not. I don't. I'm from Missouri, man. I'm from the show me state, and I don't just buy on because like, oh, I got scared or anything like that. And I don't really approach it from a fear standpoint. You know, I approach talking about this in a real way and truthfully. Like, I want information, man. You know, if this is not stuff I want as part of my energy field. So what am I going to do about that? Well, you can't really decide what to do about that until you kind of get a grok on what actually is happening, you know, and the reality of getting the full picture of exactly what's happening. I mean, that's so far beyond anybody that doesn't have military clearance that, you know, what are you gonna do about that? But you can take responsibility for your own energy and your own frequency that you're sending out. And the truth of the matter is, what you're sending out into the universe with your own energy, your own frequency, is going to reflect back to you. So I'm really like, I'm not a fearful screwed up spot about that. I'm really excited about the whole blank space quantum field thing. That's like an answer to me. Like, oh, that's doable. That's like, okay, man, there's something I can actually work on and affect. Because that's the worst part of this whole scenario for me, is it's so outside my reach. Like, it's so beyond my reach. It's like, even understanding what's happening, like, wow, it's just thick on way many layers, and it's just beyond. But you can affect you, and you can affect your ride, and you can affect your energy and preparing yourself for, you know, the next go around on a really great zone, you know, and that's all things that you can do and affect and keep yourself in the moment, and every moment really good, and your connection to the source. You know, I mean, we are actual pieces of the source, the creator source. And understanding and fostering that relationship takes you right past the darkness. You know, in the first bardo of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it talks about seeing the true light past the illusions. You know, and the spectral light shows up with all the illusions. You know, the archons show up with all the, like, the illusions and the this and then that, and that's what keeps you in the perpetual cycle going around. But realizing that not only are those illusions not real, but you are the true light, and then going back to that and connecting with that takes you past all of that and on to liberation. Good goal.
yeah, so user points out about the scalar wave as a weapon or listening mind reading technology. Scalar wave certainly is one of the concepts that is woefully underrepresented in mainstream media, where it's only relegated to, you know, Georges Lakhovsky or Tesla devices, which I myself have experienced some of them, and have also
User, hang on one second. User, make sure that you scope that video that I sent to Raphael. It has a huge section in there about exactly that. I think you'll find it very interesting. Oh, by the way, the good part of that, it's a really long video. The really good part of it and the conversation with ChatGTP starts at about 45 seconds.
Oh, 45 seconds or minutes?
Oh, 45 minutes, I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, perfect. So about here?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Very good. Then, just as a brief intermission, and also because I think I never asked you about it, and it very much relates to the whole, you know, create your own biofield thing, because, you know, scalar waves is, like I said, woefully underrepresented, but it seems we are embedded in them. Maybe we even emit them. And it seems that this is also the method how astral projection or remote viewing or anything else like that works, because it's a non-longitudinal wave, and therefore is not bound to the same apparent physics rules of time and space and usual wave propagation. So one thing I want to ask you here on the show, also because we got the link below for the discount, and I know that you've had experience with this, what is your understanding, or what was your experience? Let's see if I even can find my way around this here. Let's see here, shop. Right. So I know I've sent you some of those, and
Oh,
since
the
you do,
garlic. Oh man,
yeah,
yeah.
and especially since you do astral projection and physical effect, so anyone who doesn't know, check out Bryan's channel. There are a few, even like 3-4 weeks back, where Bryan even does the demonstration of what I would say is the most basic physical
Yeah,
effect example, which is
exactly.
simply using your chi to move a rod. And I actually think it's kind of, I almost like the way that, how should I say, it's on a video. I mean, it could be AI or something, or people could make of all kinds of reasons why it's not real. But I almost think that's good, because it's like a layer of protection, because what would happen if everyone suddenly understood they can really do and learn this? Although you even
Oh, good.
showed, although you even showed the very next week, uh, listeners of yours, even only after a week of trial, doing this. And I also have a friend, we did a show quite some time back on right here. This may even have been the show, or a bit earlier than that. We did shows also talking about artificial intelligence, but also where I brought on a friend who also was able, within the, I guess, a quite short period of time, to learn how to use the chi and to affect physical things. Some
Yeah.
people like to do a rod, other people just like to use a piece of paper. So anyways, since you do all of these things, I was like, well, I know that this garlic stuff is very effective, at least for me and many other people that, have issues because whatever their cardiovascular system and energy availability and all of that. So of course I wanted to know what actually happens if you take that and you try to do, or you do, astral
Well,
and physical
yeah.
effects.
You remember I did a whole research. You sent me a nice little chunk of them, and I did some serious research into how many I needed, how many drops I needed to take, and that whole, as usual with my like. Well, that was good. I wonder if a little more would be better. I wound up to kind of some extreme levels, and it did have very, very significant effects on my energy. I wasn't really approaching it like I didn't really have any physical ailments I was trying to get. I'm always looking for something that will elevate me and keep me in a good zone, but it really did energetically boost for not a long period of time, for about 8 hours, which is a significant amount of time. So yeah, highly recommended. I loved it, and it made me feel really, really, really good. It's like it just had me at that kind of hum level.
That's great to hear. So, because, and why am I even mentioning this? Because the whole question is always then, how can we strengthen our own field? And I really can't guarantee if it makes a difference, because from all I can say, even though I'm taking this, also my field gets read out, quantum entangled on the YouTube recommendations page or whatever. I could suspect it has something to do with being inside any sort of EMF radiation field.
The EMF
However,
radiation for sure. I was definitely going to mention that. Yeah.
However, if it does have some quantum aspect, maybe it even goes beyond it, or maybe you're only be able to be targeted if you're also inside some Wi-Fi field or something.
Well, the
I have a
reality is all those waves and microwaves and radio waves, they're all part of the quantum field anyway. So ultimately, it's just another execution in that zone. So the answer is totally the quantum field. And that's a place where you can negate that. I mean, there's just all sorts of possibilities for like rewriting that a little bit and not being available to that in a huge way.
Let's see what other links I have here, and then
just before we get off
yes,
the garlic,
sure.
There's not one single thing that's going to be like the cure all, but it's acquiring your own by your own investigation and understanding your energy and what winds up finding the things that really boost you, like the garlic's amazing. oregano extract is amazing. I take 3 drops of nascent iodine every day. That's what keeps nascent iodine. We don't get any iodine in our diet. Hardly any, very minuscule amounts. Yet iodine is critical for our thyroid to run our whole system. That's like the system checkpoint. So it really goes a long way towards boosting thyroid function and how those interact with other organs. But the thing I like the most about it is it takes your immune system and goes and supercharges it. So, that's how I got prepared. Like I saw COVID coming. I was like in mound, so I scarfed up. I made sure everything I was doing was driving my physical well-being, and I was really looking at my body at that time like a machine, and like, what do I need to give it to run well, and stay out of the pharmaceuticals and stay in the natural things that come from plants. And, everybody writes off, like they think that they can go into the jungle and find a plant and do a genetic thing on it and come up and have chemical compounds that do the same thing as the plant, but they write off the energetic part of the plant, the spiritual part of that plant, which has purpose and life. And, staying in that zone you can't go wrong.
Yes, great point. So Stellium-7. Hi, Mike. Very glad you're tuning in. Stellium-7 has done the most amazing research about Mount Go in Spain, which very much appears to be, for lack of a better term, a giant petrified elephant. So much for rabbit holes to go down. However, Stellium-7 also is a chiropractor and therefore was able to find, I like to say 20 plus, but actually it's 40 plus correlations, exact correlations between that mountain and what appears to be an elephant anatomy, for lack of a better reference. Also because it is quite unlikely that a mountain like this could form randomly or only through whatever volcano emissions and whatever else. To me, it's entirely impossible that this would occur randomly. So either, I'm not sure, someone constructed it, or it actually is the biological remnants of some kind of titan elephant. Anyone who hasn't seen Stellium-7's work, please kind of do check it out. This opens up all kinds of doors, and Stellium-7, stellium because he's a stellium, Virgo stellium, so that means very analytical and exact. And I think he's done truly outstanding work. Check it out. Anyways, he's saying...
So I'd like to reply to that.
Of course, please.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm totally with you on the whole quantum physics thing, man. Like in the last 4 or 5 years, especially, I've been kind of like seeing quantum physics like not going in a really great direction. But truthfully, I think a lot of the things that were misguided or just not right, it's a brand new idea, and I think some of those things that were not correct have been falling away and that they're coming back. But dude, what I found about quantum entanglement is go look that up, Stellium, and see what you think after that, and the possibilities related to quantum entanglement. And dude, YouTube, even as we're sitting here, is reading our quantum fields with technology called KDAR or QDAR. And that's reality. That's here. That's not theoretical anymore. So whatever you want to call it, all good. But it's what quantum physics as we knew it, I think, is dying, but I think a new evolution is having. Whether they'll still call that quantum physics or not, who knows? But something new is growing and here and on the way. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I also would agree, Stellium, that there is some issues with maybe how should I say, the way it's interpreted or something, or that there's also some shenanigans going on there. However, it still seems that we have something like spooky action at a distance. The example I'm sure you're familiar with is Masaru Emoto's rice hado experiment. Again, everybody can do this at home. Look it up, cook the rice, put it in a jar, make it as scientifically controlled as you can. So
Yeah,
that there's something there, and then what the proper frame for it is, hopefully we'll find out someday. What I'd like to show briefly, just because it's associated. Last, what's it called, autumn, I've been to this place which is called 12 Apostelzeche in Klosterneuburg. So this is an underground access site, as I like to call it. Let's see if we get the images on the proper size. And this is a huge underground tunnels, I guess. And it even has several layers. Let's see, this may be something else now. There's not many pictures. It's quite an astounding underground thing, which a private individual has excavated over many years. He's had different scientists come along, and anytime he had a renowned scientist investigate or do anything there, they were practically banned from any further academic funding, because the way they relate it is they say this is related to the Danube civilization. Another individual here to check out is Dr. Heinrich Kusch, or also Gunnar Hiptmeier. I've brought him up on previous shows that do research into this. And just right now, the government again did a motion to basically bury the place with some fudged up reasoning in terms of, oh, the access to the building is on some type of street or something, which makes it in a different classification and would give the municipality the right to bury it, basically. And the guy is also not allowed to open a museum or anything, because at least in the European Union, anytime you would relate anything to the Danube civilization, you can be certain to lose all your funding. That's the prelude. But what's actually there is one room which has very strange symbols. One of them is like a Templar cross and some other things, but you can only see it with UV light. I saw it myself. There's also many other artifacts like 15% aluminium. There is a hip bone, which appears to be humanoid, but is certainly not human, which would open the idea of, you know, human something else hybrids. However, what I want to get to, there is one room which could be activated by using a coil, which has then like another metal coil surrounding it. There's even images of this, like true medieval type images at the entrance, which were excavated, and maybe only 5% had to be renovated, or restored. These images were pretty perfect. And there you can see this rod and this thing. And the idea is also in accordance with the scriptures which they found at the local abbey or had access to, that this is, for lack of a better term, a teleportation room, meaning this room would have the capacity to teleport organic and inorganic material over a distance. And the thing is, there's two aspects to this now which seem to verify this. Number one, the one individual known for quantum entanglement work is Zeilinger. Is actually an Austrian, and by now, I guess, Nobel Prize laureate. The real application for this type of cryptography is for banking, from what I understand, and maybe some offshoots, which I'm not aware of. But he was there in one of these rooms, which is a teleportation room. And when he was being told about the story, he said, well, I can very well imagine it as a Nobel laureate in quantum cryptography. So you better be able to imagine it too. That's number one. And number two, the co-owner of Red Bull, Didi Mateschitz, I'm sure you're familiar with Red Bull, right? Super famous company, so amazing, you know, makes your heart go so fast. It's going to let you access the next astral layer if you're not careful. He actually owns huge swaths of land in Austria with several of these underground access sites. And because they found quartz veins close by, he even did boring between two of these sites over many, many kilometers, and he could confirm that there is a solid quartz vein going from one of these sites to another. And this just, of course, makes me think of Ethernet, the current internet we have, which I guess mostly works with light, but also you have all these crystals involved, and makes me wonder whether there is some type of ancient teleportation technology that the public simply is not aware of. And the local municipality in Austria is more than happy to bury and not give any credence or relevance to.
Yeah, I think teleportation and wormholes and those have been around for eons. Yeah. So have you ever seen a show called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch?
I heard about it, and I also heard it's quite contentious.
Yeah. So on I think it's like season end, the last show or so of season 5 or 4, they've been doing all of these. Skinwalker Ranch is not just about this show. Skinwalker Ranch has gone back many, many years. And this guy named Robert Bigelow, who was an aerospace like mega genius, bought the ranch and did all of this exploration for the government about anomalous activities. And there were all kinds of things like UAPs, many UFOs, crazy energy anomalies. So this show has been about like exploring that, and they've put a lot of dough into like these crazy experiments, and have defined in this one particular part of the ranch where all these effects start happening, an actual like portal. And I was like, there's the portal. And it's like they were able to use this LiDAR technology that like completely defined it. And it's like, what happened on that season of the show, I just don't think there's any doubt. It's just like, okay, let's figure out and how to get access to it now. But there's things flying in and out of that mesa like that were just clearly photographed. You know what, you know, and I know, I mean, it's a day of like anything can be faked, but it isn't. It is the advancing technology, and it's what's rushing rapidly forward. And the whole like quantum computing thing, you know, it's not just like part of that is like working in multiple dimensions. So who knows where that goes?
Yes. So my take on this is that I do not doubt that many of these and even more magical technologies do exist. However, I'm always wary if they publicize something. I'm almost expecting, even if they put some truth in there, they try to lead you astray at the same time. However, now that you mention it again, I'll make sure to check out the Skinwalker Ranch stuff in more detail.
Season
you can
4,
tell me,
you know, like it's a little, you know, it takes a little while to get going, but where they really start getting the meat, this last 3 or 4 shows of season 4. I haven't scoped out season 5 yet, but man, it's like, dude, you'll like, there it is. And the guy that's involved in it is this guy named Travis Barker. And he is an astrophysicist, a doctor astrophysicist, and has been hired by the government for a long time to work on like anomalous shit that can't be explained. And he comes in and does like brings scientific method to it, and most of the time figures it out. Well, like from day one on this, he's been completely baffled. He has no clue. Well, they're getting a clue now, and they're really honing in on what's happening there. And I think that has the possibility to kind of be one of those breakout places where like it becomes undeniable. You know, when somebody actually like fires one up and flies their craft through the wormhole and disappears right in front of everybody, I think that will be pretty telling.
So to everyone who's interested in these resonance chambers, you can check out this particular video. I posted it in the chat as well. This is by Gunnar Hiptmeier. We haven't had him on the show yet, but I spoke to him on the phone. He seems to be a very, very cool and based, for lack of a better term, even in the basements of these resonance chambers, and really investigating them, checking them out, trying to make sense of it. And to me, it's just highly interesting because it's obvious certain types of history, let's say the ancient Egyptian pyramids or whatever, even though they're still speculating about it in 100 ways, but everyone knows about it. But how many people know about these resonance chambers and underground access sites in Austria, and most likely in many other places as well? So this is certainly something I can recommend everybody to check out. And let's see, we have a few more things I want to go through. All right, here. This is Dr. Kusch, Geheime Unterwelt. He is the one researcher who also has university accreditations and somehow managed, or like on and off, stay at the university and still do research there. Dr. Heinrich Kusch, something interesting to check out. And he's also writing about these underground access sites. Then what else do we have? Yeah, here, this is the 12 Apostelzeche. And we even have it right here. So this is in German now, but it says, we need your help, save the 12 Apostelzeche, so this resonance chamber. And there's been legal warfare going on for many years. And as I'm seeing right now, there is an online petition, which is not even officially from the owner of the building, which of course is crazy. Makes me wonder who put out the petition. I hope they at least had the proper intention. And it says the online petition has no legal validity. And if you want to help it, you can access this site, unterwelt-oesterreich.at. You may, I'm going to post it in the chat as well. And there, if you want, you can petition the Austrian municipal government not to simply bury this place. Yeah, it's a crazy world, because of course, in my mind, I would have put millions into researching this, because like I said, there's not just 1, 2, or 3, there's like dozens of artifacts that make absolutely no sense with our current timeline understanding of technology. Also because there's one layer, and then there's a layer even lower. I believe they call it a siphon. So there's like a water, like a well, you have to dive down. And in the lower level, when it was initially found, the upper level was full of rubble, and it took quite a long time to remove it. But if you dive down, whatever rubble they put in, it couldn't reach there. So the lower level even was pretty pristine. And that's where they found even more artifacts that make no sense for the current timeline and technological understanding. So that's something everyone may want to be able to check out. Let's see. So we had this, we got this. Then we have the iodine, which you mentioned, top foods for iodine. Then we get to this at the very end. Yeah, here, of course,
okey cock, man! Wow.
This was some of our initial shows. There's quite a few. If you just go on actlikeyouKnow.xyz or on Odyssey, Act Like You Know 26, you can find the shows here as a backup. And then there were a few more things I wanted to mention. Right. So main topic today is AI, which of course relates to everything else. Have you heard about this? This is quite recent. Interestingly enough, released on the 19th, MIT study finds that ChatGPT is making people dumber. 83% of ChatGPT users can't recall what they just wrote. Wow, that's amazing. Have you heard about this?
Not really amazing. It's frightening, but that's what I'm talking about, man. We're giving away who we are. Putting it in the hands of an electro machine. We never learn. We're so fast to give our power away, man.
Yeah, these stories always make me think of Dune and the artificial intelligence, the secret one. You can see it in Dune Prophecy, the new series, which actually is, I think, quite well done, where the Bene Gesserit, none dare call them Jesuits, who are doing all the genetic engineering in this empire and trying to produce the Moshiach, basically, the Kwisatz Haderach, and this very much relates to what David Jung Jr. also talks about. But anyways, this Bene Gesserit group and all the others, they agreed after the Butlerian Jihad not to allow any artificial intelligence sentient systems anymore. However, the Bene Gesserit themselves in their basement basically have the most advanced AI that anybody has in order to compute and calculate these genetic matches that they want to create. So as so often, the people that forbid you from using something may very well be using it themselves if they have the power to. Hear more about this, your brain on ChatGPT makes you think less, remember less, and care less. And they claim the effects have already been materialized. See, we got the quantum entanglement. This is what you had shown. We can close this down. Well, how can I get AI to do what I want? Yeah, well, this is also interesting, but not something we're going to talk about more. Well, is there anything in relation to this whole AI topic or even the astral topic that you would like to bring up, which we haven't talked about yet?
You know, you know how many different channels of magic, metaphysics I've gone down. And at the end of all of it, it's really super simple. It's energy. And it's what energy you put out reflects back. in every way. And when you keep it like, and you live your life outside of the constructs and the dogma and the programming, and you just remember that you are a vibration of the creator source, it really negates all the rest of this bullshit in a really huge way, in a real way, in a profound way. You know, if you open yourself and seek that connection. And energy never lies, man. When you live your life in accordance with the rules of the way energy works, you can never go wrong, ever. And that's what I'd like to leave everybody with.
That's great. However, before we potentially close this down, let's see if there's any more questions from the audience. Kindly drop it now if you can. Aside from that, of course, I totally want to give a shout out to your channels. So let's see, we can start with this. Bryan, Lahr light painting. You have light painting stuff there, which is most amazing because it's actually done by yourself. And then also,
and most of those are tutorials on how to do it, actually. So
that's actually really great. So then everyone, please check this out. Bryan Lahr light painting on YouTube with tutorials on how to do your own light paintings. I mean, look at this. This just looks amazing. I always loved Bryan's art, whether tarot or light painting. There is a regular show, which, surprise, is live right now because we are co-streaming this. Welcome everyone on this channel. Maybe you briefly want to talk about your show?
Yeah, that we have a podcast every Monday night at 9:00 Eastern time, and I think the thing that's sort of different about this show is it's really devoted to live practice, and we do breathing exercises, we do telekinetics, we do energy work, we do aura work, chakra breathing, sound healing, and we're actually got a really nice little community of people that are serious about their energy work and their practice. And it's really turning into a wonderful place to come and participate and get something real for you to take back with you and into life every day. So I'm really excited about that. I've got a guest on tonight who's one of my favorite people, the rebel yogi himself. His name's Satya, and just a really fantastic yogi, and he's going to be talking about a book. One of the things that I'd like to have brought from so many years of studying is bringing the really abstruse, crazy concepts that stretch your brain and are hard to grasp, especially for people that aren't really studying, and break that down into metaphors and language and verbiage that people can relate to and can accept those ideas and make them part of themselves. And Satya's done the same thing with his yoga, brings martial arts and a bunch of different kinds of yoga. And he really has constructed this energetic cosmology that I just dig to the max. So he's going to come on tonight. He wrote a book that we're going to be promoting a little bit tonight called Enlighten the Fuck Up. And it's humorous and intense and full of truth. So come and share some space with us. I do live angel card readings at the end of the show. If anybody's interested, I will be happy to read a card for you. And come play with us, please.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool feature that you not only either discuss a certain card or aspect so you have a guest, but also anyone who looks for some divination can receive it through you. Always these things make me wonder again, how far are we apart from AI? How close are we ourselves to some sort of AI? Only in the sense.
Well, I'm reaching out through, at the beginning when we create sacred space and I create an energetic circle that connects everybody, that's really tangible and real. And that's become a real source of practice for me. And being able to reach out through that field and connect with somebody there as they're breathing, and we sync our breathing. It's been pretty profound. People are like, wow, that's pretty intense. The angels are intense anyway. Now my deck, Yeah, people always think the angels are warm and fuzzy, man, but these guys tell you the truth. And the truth isn't always comfortable, but they always tell you what you need to hear. And that's what I continue to like about them, even after 10 years. Yeah, I've actually sold out of the angel deck. I still have tarot decks that are available. Yeah, those are amazing. Those are amazing. What a whole crazy journey it is making your whole deck. You rode through it with me. And that's been, I think that's one of the things I'm happiest about my whole crazy metaphysical journey.
Yeah, so anyone who's into tarot, definitely check these out. For quite some time, I've been using them on Team Rabbit Hole, actually, and also other decks. But this deck, I mean, just look at this. This doesn't, there's still no other deck quite like it, I think. Both in terms of the, in this case, incense painting, let's say, but also, as you guys can see here, there's all these correlations on the card. So even if, much of our history or whatever else systems may have been tampered with or whatever, but all of these systems that exist, there's so many, they're all contained on these cards. So if you like a synchro, how do you call it? Well, synchromistic also, but syncretic approach to learning about magical systems and all these divination systems, these cards certainly are amazing. And you say you still have them in stock. So the angels are sold out?
The angels are sold out, but I still have a few of the tarot decks. Yes.
Okay,
and,
amazing.
If somebody mentions, from the show wants to get a tarot deck, I'll be happy to turn you on to a 2-hour reading if you want.
Oh, come again?
I'd be happy to include a 2-hour live reading with anyone that wants to.
Wow.
From this.
Well, that's an offer. You guys definitely want to have a reading from Bryan if you're at all, fascinated or interested in his energy and what he's shared today. I think that's a very generous offer. Amazing. Well, so much for that. I think we're through the main links and the main things we wanted to discuss today. Thank you, everyone, very much for joining. This show today really happened very much on the spot, since Bryan contacted me and I was like, oh, we totally should talk about this.
Well, I was going to book you on my show, and I pulled out the calendar and I'm like, okay, is it the 14th or the 21st? And he goes, no, in about 15 minutes. It was great though, man. It's always good to share space with you, man. I enjoy where your brain goes.
Thank you very much. So much for the wormhole and the relativity of time, space, or whatever else, scalar wave connections, God knows what it is exactly. I can only confirm much of what you said today, even though it may sometimes appear gloomy and doomy, as they like to say, all the propaganda wouldn't be necessary if the whole situation was hopeless. Also, at least according to some information we have, who knows, there may even be at least a few people that have some power and influence that are not completely insane and don't actually want to enslave everyone, as David Ewing Jr. has related. However, there are many people that just looking out for a quick buck and some crazy things like that. There is one very last thing I could bring up, only if you want to. If you briefly want to just share some views about the current Iran-Iraq situations, mainly because I have a few images from David I'd like to show you in terms of synchronicities, if you're up for that. Or we leave that out.
Yeah, I'd rather not go there.
Okay, well, we're not going there. That's also the thing, all these, traps being laid out for everyone and perception management carried out. All I can say is I wish love and peace for everyone. I hope everyone could take something useful and interesting away from this show, especially this idea that even though all this tech and so on, and who knows what's real, but what you can do is you have your own perception, you have your own center, you have your own energy, you have your own biofield. And whether it's through practice, through changing your lifestyle, through maybe adopting certain supplement or diet regimens and all of these combined, and of course being loving, compassionate, accepting, and all of these wonderful things.
Blank space.
Thank you. It very much appears we have quite some creative power located right within ourselves. And while there are useful tools potentially, we are the supercomputer, we are the alchemical lab already within ourselves. And the more we take responsibility of that, dare I say, take charge, the less gloomy the situation may seem, because you may actually realize how much capacity for creative input we actually have in this reality, especially in our own immediate lives. But of course, that must in some way, shape, or form ripple out to the collective as well. Whether you have a psychological systems theory or astral explanation for that, ultimately doesn't really matter. So again, thank you very much, Bryan, and I'm very much looking forward to a next show with you sometime in the
Me
future.
too. Thanks for sharing space with us, everybody. I appreciate your attention.
Thanks everyone in chat, and catch you all next time. Thank you so much.